Once upon a time, my Uncle B, who lived in our village, invited me and 4 other men from our community for a hunting trip. We were all excited, imagining the thrill of the jungle and the joy of bringing back some game for the village. After setting up our camp deep in the heart of the jungle, my uncle and I decided to go hunting. Armed with our bows and arrows, we ventured into the thick forest, eager to catch something for dinner. The day was filled with laughter and excitement from the hunt. As the sun set, we gathered around the campfire to share stories and roast the food we had caught. However, as night fell, we started hearing strange and eerie sounds in the darkness. The wind whispered through the leaves and strange shadows danced around us. Suddenly, my uncle's face turned pale and his eyes widened with fear. He claimed to have seen someone, but when I looked around, there was no one there. He was trembling, and his fear was contagious. We decided to leave the campsite and run away from whatever was causing the disturbance. In the midst of our escape, my uncle finally broke his silence. He confessed to a dark secret from his past. He had killed his girlfriend. The guilt had haunted him, and now, it seemed, the past had caught up with him in the form of her vengeful spirit. We ran through the dense jungle, the darkness concealing the path ahead. The sounds of the forest seemed to echo our fear. The vengeful spirit of my uncle's girlfriend appeared before us, a ghostly figure seeking retribution. As she was just standing there, she walked to me and my uncle. The other 3 friends freaked out and ran away the opposite way. Despite our efforts to escape, she was relentless. In a heartbreaking moment, my uncle, burdened by the weight of his past actions, sacrificed himself to save me. As he faced the spirit, he urged me to keep running and to follow the other man. I fled through the tangled vines and twisted branches, leaving behind the haunting echoes of his final words. Without my uncle, we were lost in the jungle for 4 days, but we were finally found. The truth about my uncle's shameful past was exposed, leading to his disappearance and eventual death in the same spot where he had committed the terrible act against his girlfriend. In a dream, his girlfriend conveyed a message to me. She only wanted the truth to be known. Her spirit is finding peace now that the darkness of the past has been brought to light. It was a haunting journey that left me with a mix of sorrow, relief, and the importance of facing the truth, no matter how painful it may be. A few years ago, my buddies and I decided to go camping. It turned out to be the last time they invited me. We stumbled upon this amazing camping spot with 2 areas to set up, and we got a fire going. It was a blast. We cooked, laughed, and had a great time. I went to bed early that night and woke up early to cook breakfast. Everything seemed normal until I went to gather more firewood. As I was dragging a perfect log back to our camping spot, I noticed something strange. There were footsteps, like someone barefoot, leading from the woods to our campsite. Curious, I followed the trail where the footsteps came from. Suddenly, something pushed me, and I hightailed it back to the campsite. It was spooky, but I didn't want to freak out my friends, so I kept quiet. Later that day, a ranger showed up, telling us we were camping near a cemetery site, and we had to leave immediately. As we packed up and left, my friends mentioned seeing me by my tent multiple times the previous night, just standing there in the darkness. It sent shivers down my spine. When I got home, things took a turn for the worse. I started feeling sick, and every night I had terrible dreams about that eerie night in the forest. My mom got worried, so she decided to bring in a shaman to figure out what was going on. The shaman said something about me dragging that log in the forest, causing strange happenings. Lesson learned: never drag a log while collecting firewood, and definitely don't drag wood from strange places. The days that followed were a nightmare. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was following me. Every creak in the house and rustle in the trees outside felt like a ghostly presence. The bad dreams persisted, each one scarier than the last. One night I had a dream. I dreamed that I decided to confront whatever was haunting me. I went back to that camping spot, even though I knew it was a bad idea. The forest was eerily quiet, and the moon cast long, creepy shadows. As I approached the log I had dragged, a chilling wind whispered through the trees. Suddenly I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I turned around, and there, standing before me, was a figure shrouded in darkness. It was a ghostly apparition, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I woke up screaming in sweat, and it seems like nothing seems to be helping me. I don't know what to do now, and am planning to go to church with a friend to see if I can get out of this creepy shadow I've been witnessing. Last summer, my buddy Alex and I decided to go camping with some friends in Texas. We were excited to spend a few days in the great outdoors, surrounded by nature. Everything went well until the final night, when things took a spooky turn. As the sun set and darkness crept in, we gathered around the crackling campfire. The flames danced and shadows flickered, creating the perfect setting for sharing scary stories. I found a good spot to sit, near the edge of the clearing with my back turned to the woods. Little did I know, that spot would become the epicenter of my chilling experience. As my friends began to spin their tales of ghosts and mysteries, I felt an unexpected cold breeze on the back of my neck. I shivered, thinking it was just a draft or maybe a gentle wind passing through the trees. Ignoring the eerie feeling, I focused on the stories being told, trying to get lost in the spooky atmosphere. However, something caught my attention. My friend Alex, who was sitting across the fire, seemed different. His face was pale, and his eyes held a look of terror. When our eyes met, I could sense that something was seriously wrong. Concerned, I decided to talk to him. Later that night, when the others were settling into their tents, I approached Alex and asked him what was bothering him. He hesitated for a moment, glancing around nervously before finally speaking in a hushed tone. "I'm too scared to tell you. Let's wait until morning." The next day, as we began packing up our camping gear, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I pressed Alex again, insisting he tell me what had happened the previous night. Reluctantly, he started to share his bone-chilling encounter. During the campfire stories, Alex recounted seeing a creepy lady emerging from the dark depths of the woods. She had long, unkempt hair that hung down like a curtain, and she was dressed in a blood-red gown. What sent shivers down my spine was the way she moved, limping towards me with a twisted gait. As she got closer, she bent over, revealing her long, wet tongue, and began to lick my head. The mere thought sent a shudder through me. I couldn't comprehend how such a bizarre and terrifying image could be real. Alex described the woman's haunting gaze, the way her eyes seemed to pierce through the darkness, and the unnatural, guttural sounds she made. As we drove away from the campsite, the memory of that night lingered in the air. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, and every rustle in the woods made my heart skip a beat. Even though the sun was shining brightly, the image of that creepy lady with the long tongue haunted my thoughts. To this day, I can't explain what happened that night. Was it a figment of Alex's imagination, a shared hallucination? Or did something truly supernatural occur in those Texas woods? One thing is for sure, the memory of that chilling encounter will stay with me, a ghostly reminder of the unknown horrors that may lurk in the shadows of the night. A couple of years back, my wife and I, along with some friends, decided to go camping in Yosemite National Forest. I was pumped to lead the group on this tough off-road trail. After a bit of a detour, we finally stumbled upon a campsite with killer mountain views. The search for a lake was a bit tricky, but we eventually found a sweet spot. Setting up camp was a breeze, and we had a blast with dinner and a movie. However, as the night crawled in, a weird feeling crept up on me. It was like someone was keeping an eye on us. Call it paranoia or whatever, but I couldn't shake off the feeling. So, just to be safe, I grabbed my gun. You never know what's out there in the wilderness, right? Around midnight, things got even spookier. I started hearing voices in the distance. Whispers, maybe? I couldn't quite make out what they were saying, but it sent shivers down my spine. I peeked out, and what do I see? Dark figures lurking around our car. Now, that's enough to make anyone's heart race. The phrase, "the trees see everything," echoed through the night. It was like the forest was talking to us. The figures weren't menacing, though. They seemed more curious than anything else. It was as if they were checking us out like we were the new kids on the camping block. And then, out of nowhere, I started having these visions. Visions of past campers, like ghostly echoes of people who had been here before us. It looks like people were running around our cars, shooting at each other. It was eerie, to say the least. Just when I thought things couldn't get any weirder, a strong presence suddenly materialized near my wife. I can now clearly see that it was an old Caucasian man. Fear shot through me like a lightning bolt. I reached for my gun, but before I could even blink, everything just vanished. Poof, like it was never there. I spun around, trying to make sense of what just happened. It was dead silent, except for the distant rustle of leaves. My friends were still sound asleep, unaware of the creepy midnight show I had just witnessed. I couldn't shake off the feeling that the forest held secrets that only revealed themselves when they wanted to. The next morning, the sunlight brought a false sense of security. The previous night's events felt like a crazy dream. My friends laughed it off when I tried to tell them about the dark figures and the mysterious presence. They chalked it up to a wild imagination, or maybe too much excitement from the off-road adventure. As we packed up to leave, I couldn't help but glance back at the campsite. The trees stood tall and silent, as if keeping their secrets hidden from prying eyes. I still wonder what those dark figures were and why that phrase haunted the night. The memory of that camping trip lingers, a ghostly whisper in the back of my mind, reminding me that sometimes the wilderness has its own tales to tell. And maybe, just maybe, the trees really do see everything.